Welcome once again to The Lost Signals discusses games and gaming culture, a pretentious, philosophical, pedantic podcast where we focus on various aspects of video games as well as other issues and topics within gaming in general. Hello there, welcome back to Lost Signals Games and Gaming Culture. I am your fake corporate host, Scott Thurlow, here with my cronies, Stephen Amosi.
I'm your fake corporate guest.
Mm-hmm. And Chris Morgan.
I'm an avatar for Chris Morgan.
Of course you are. And so we're doing our E3 coverage as we do annually every year. And E3 was about a week ago at the time of this recording. So we're just going to go through a couple things. Again, as my caveat always is, in our own style. That's to say the shit that I thought was cool. Like not every fucking thing ever. Because if you're super interested, the whole week has been, every outlet other than us has been covering it minute by minute, pretty much. So I'll start off with this. In the past, let's say 2 or 3 years, E3 has been okay. I know it's sort of the joke to be it's just a bullshit presentation, nothing really matters. There is some stuff that still I think I'm interested in that comes out of it. But yeah, it's a lot of corporate staging, we'll say. But regardless, I am going to go through, I have a little list here and we'll go through some of the things that I picked out for me personally. And if anything comes up, you guys want to know more, I'll tell you the best I can.
Yeah. Well, before we start with that, I think it's interesting that E3 every year is kind of almost preempted by a bunch of the larger gaming companies release, leaking, yes. Oh, this got leaked. No, it didn't. You put it out
that's the
purpose.
first thing I have leaks in quotes, of course. You know what the fuck you were doing.
All the stuff that comes out right before it. It seems like everybody kind of tries to get around the big game show of the year these days, which is kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
I wish that it was the big,
what it
event
used to be,
that
kind
it
of.
used to be. Yeah. That you could just and the way that it works now would be so much better for that. If you could just stream the entirety of E3 live like you can now, back in the day when they made all their big announcements instead of reading about them in articles later. That would be awesome if I could just see everything that's happening at E3 live as it comes up, and you get to see new trailers and things. You get that a little bit now, but not as much as I guess you used to.
Like you said, I agree. It's the consensus in the industry, or at least the pundits will say, is it's been sort of lackluster for the most part. And then, in the past, let's say 4 or 5 years. And yeah, it's funny because two things, I said, there were a couple of leaks, even before it started, the week before it or so. Mm-hmm. And then, even during it, people were whatever, more or less. Yeah. But there's so for example, the one thing I'll start off with, so with the big leak that you guys might care about, or if J. Ian Manzer were here, is that Baldur's Gate 3 is definitely happening. And that was leaked/shown at the fucking Stadia presentation from Google. That was right before the actual conference. That was kind of interesting. But if you're a big fan, oh sweet, Baldur's Gate 3, it's happening. It's a real thing. They're gonna do it. I
think the if I remember correctly, the 10-minute Death Stranding.
That came out
right before. Yeah. It was a leak, right?
Well, it wasn't a leak. It was just a release. So that'll tie in.
I thought they said that it leaked and then they just released.
As I recall, it wasn't necessarily leaked. It was just released because that also a nice segue though is that Sony didn't do a presentation at E3. They just sort of they're here's a fucking 11-minute long whatever it was Death Stranding thing. We're not doing a presentation at E3, but you can have this.
I guess that is the biggest thing, right? Sony pulls out, and that's a huge part of the gaming industry. Yeah, and it's what do we? You're kind of cutting a third of the legs of the,
in theory,
that show off,
So it's weird because, I kind of respect Sony for that, because essentially, aside from Death Stranding, they really didn't have much to show off anyways.
Yeah.
Anything else that was known was already known before that. And so, I kind of give them credit for, not showing up and just, doing a song and dance without saying anything, right? So, I can understand that. I can, congratulate them in that sense. And Nintendo also, again, related, did a direct one. They didn't really, have a show. They had a direct, little thing, which has been, more frequent, more often, again, in the past X years or so. That's been more and more of a thing. So, you said, you can watch all this shit streaming, but they'll just put out, a half-hour, 40-minute thing like that's not necessarily attached to the show. It isn't like a stage presentation or
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
but it still shows off the shit that they want to like, get hyped for. So yeah, man. So it's, like I said, it's been a bit more low key in general, but I'll just start rattling things off unless there's anything else you guys want to.
Were there any other leaks?
Nothing big that I have on my list.
Okay.
There might have been a couple like here and there that were just like not even enough on my radar to like mention.
Just trying to remember if I heard of anything.
There probably were like a few things, but nothing like as big as that.
Yeah.
I think the Baldur's Gate 3 again, since I'm cherry picking like a lot of shit,
Right.
like for like our interests or like at least our personal ones, then yeah, I'm not gonna. As I said, caveat, not covering everything, but just some of the big stuff. And if anything comes up, we'll discuss that a little bit more, and I'll give you all the details that I do have. So yeah, so Nintendo Direct. So within that, since I mentioned Nintendo, the one cool thing that like I'm not gonna get it because I don't have a Switch, but they are doing a Link's Awakening. They showed off that like a remaster for the Switch. It looks really cool. Like it's all Switch like sort of style and colors and so forth. And Link's Awakening is one of my favorite Zeldas, so it's pretty sweet that they're doing that. Sorry, I thought Chris was gonna say something to me, and then they also did what was that one? It's a rhythm game we just talked about.
Cadence of Hyrule.
Cadence of Hyrule, which seems interesting-ish.
It looks very strange. I think it just came out, actually.
Yeah, they
right?
just
Like,
dropped it.
They dropped
So-
it like right after E3.
Yeah, so some of this stuff like dropped either during or like directly after
Yeah.
E3. So
So that game looks crazy, and it's based on the engine of Crypto the Necrodancer,
Yeah.
which I had never really heard of.
I have
before
heard
that,
of it. Yeah, I was familiar with it beforehand, but nobody knew they were doing like basically a Zelda game within that style of it.
It does look really fascinating. It looks like a type of game that you would have to put a lot of work into making the mechanics work like really how you want them to, but it could be really cool if basically it's like you have to attack and like move on rhythm, otherwise you take damage or whatever.
Yeah, you go back.
So like I was kind of interested in that, and Link's Awakening of course is like, it was a great game.
I mean, so like I'll give whatever dates I do have. Link's Awakening remaster comes out September 20th. So there you go. But yeah, so like the thing that was amusing to me, not amusing, but they're doing like it's all remasters of the original Zelda music.
Right.
So it's fit into like to fit in with those mechanics. So it's not like the original. It is the original songs, but like beats that were also like that way you can play them in rhythm to how the game wants it to be. So yeah, that's neat, I guess. But like I don't know like how interesting that is to me. But it's cool that they did it, and like it sort of came out of nowhere too. So people are like, it's pretty cool, like whatever.
That was a Switch game, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I believe they dropped that as well during the show, or like in and around it. And then the other big thing, I guess, from them is that they are indeed doing a Breath of the Wild sequel, headed up by the original director of the first one.
The biggest one, right?
Yeah, so like they showed like a brief trailer. Again, like a lot of the stuff I did check out some trailers for some of it, but not all of it. Because again, I'm only tangentially interested, so I don't have a Switch. I don't plan on getting one soon.
Yeah.
But I am still interested in seeing what Nintendo, keeping up with what they're doing, what they're putting out, and like what they're planning for, etc. So yeah, that's a big one. Everyone's like, "Oh, cool, Breath of the Wild sequel." Like, makes sense. Like they should, I don't see why they wouldn't do that. And it's been 2 years or so. And it's about the right time. So yeah, there you go, Breath of the Wild sequel. So the two other bigger showcases, or at least ones that were interesting-ish, relatively. One was Square Enix, which are not my favorite, like at least old school developers from back in the day. So they're the ones who, at their showcase, they showed off the Avengers game. So like there are a lot of mixed reactions to this. If you guys have seen anything about it,
yeah.
I was gonna say, Rich was not impressed by that trailer. I know Louis was, but I don't think Rich was.
Did you watch it?
I have not yet.
Do you have any impressions? So, yeah, it seemed to have run the gamut though. Like people are like, oh, it looks cool. Like so, the two like things that people mentioned is that of course they couldn't afford the likenesses of all the actors, so it looks like sort of like weird,
they
like
kind of like
weird like bootleg-ish versions. But it's supposed to be its own like standalone like thing. It's attached to MCU like broadly, and it's like a third-person action game. And you switch off like playing Avengers story, and then they're going to put in like DLC. Like they claim it's going to be free. Like they're going to expand upon it, almost like, I hate to use this, but almost like a live service game where like they have a roadmap and all that like bullshit, but it's not pay, like it's just a regular game. So like that seems cool. Like I'm not sure what to make of it either. Like it's sort of neutral to me. I did watch the trailer for it, and it's a lot of like almost as if they were doing an MCU trailer like as a game. Like there's not much gameplay, if any. There's like very brief moments of it.
But that seems to be like par for the course.
Yes,
I mean,
I was pre-made trailers are always been like a monkey on the back of E3 essentially. Like the thing that people. That's why I put up "Cake is a Lie" as a picture here, because We'd be like, well, you can't trust the trailers because it's all just like bullshit footage that isn't actually representative of a game.
I think you and I are talking about something. We'll probably get to it later, so I won't talk about it. But one of the things I was just like, I'm waiting for gameplay, and they're like, oh, that is. You were like, I think it was you that was saying, oh, there is gameplay. I'm like, oh, then I'm impressed.
Like, yeah, like it can depend, right? It's going to be iffy, but like the notorious thing is often that like they're like, again, I don't want to use the term fake trailers, but it's like a pre-made thing that isn't actually going to be in the game. Like Anthem is a good example of that.
Ugh.
It's one of the most notorious ones, at least recently. So, I mean, it's a known thing is all I'm saying. But the trailer showed off for Avengers looked okay enough. Like I said, like I might check it out, but basically TBA, like more information needs to follow for me to like commit to it. I feel like that's sort of the general consensus. Of course, some people hate on like, oh, it looks like shit, like blah, blah, blah. Like, I guess I'll reserve judgment, but they did show it off, and that was at that showcase.
I think one of the things about like the older gen games, and I'm only going back a couple of years, but it seems to be that now they're more concerned about the hook than they are about the actual gameplay.
I mean, that's always kind of been true, but I mean, more so than ever, we might say.
I don't know, but going back, because I mean, you all sold me on the Spider-Man game, which I've yet to play, but it's just like I remember like back when I first started getting into gaming, and I explained this to somebody the other night, that like, you know, I didn't really have an up-to-date system until 2007, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing video game trailers. I remember seeing the video game trailer for Infinite, Bioshock Infinite, and right before they decided, let's retool the whole thing. And it just seems now that the non-gameplay trailer seems to...
It's more prevalent, for sure. Like, it's all hype building. Like, the thing is, I feel like in our modern like settings, culture, society, like all the video gamers, like the hobbyists have gotten like wise to it. Like, it's almost like why it doesn't matter like whatever trailer you show us, because it's not going to be representative for the most part, broadly, in many cases at least, of the actual gameplay. So what the fuck is the point of even showing us this? But it's almost like they're going through the motions of E3.
Yeah.
So like maybe that's like a sign of like industry is sort of like having to change itself in some sense. But interesting thought, interesting idea. But the point is they did show off Avengers, and it looks all right, I guess I'll say. I might check it out. We'll see. What else is there? So actually this one to me is more personally important, given that you mentioned like going back old school. So Square Enix, they're doing Trials of Mana remake. It was never released in North America, which is like one of the Mana games. And also, so related to that, they released the collection of Mana, the ones that they do have. Right, it's like all one, like a bundle essentially. And then the funniest thing to me is that a couple of outlets asked like, yo, what about like Chrono Trigger? What about like all the other things like that? They're like, yeah, we'd love to do that, except we can't find some of the code for the games anymore.
Yeah, I heard
we
about
have no
that.
idea where it is, or like it's lost somewhere, like somebody has it and we don't know like who owns it or whatever. So like if we can recreate it or like scrap together like the bits that we do have, we'll do it. So it's not like they don't want to, it's that they literally lost like the core code.
It's so
of
wild.
these games.
Like honestly, I don't know how coding a video game works, but I am almost shocked to know that you can reuse the code when you redo these games. Like in some way.
they need
like,
the source.
I know some games they like they just reskin them.
Right.
If you're gonna do Chrono Trigger, you don't have to recode that entire fucking thing. It came out on Super Nintendo, right? Initially,
Yeah,
like
but that's a much different
for
code,
a
you might think.
PlayStation 4, you don't have to recode that entire game.
I don't know, man.
That blows my mind that you can like just reuse all that code. Like,
well, you need the source code to build off of it. Like, again, you're right. We're not like programmers or coders ourselves.
I mean, I would think that you could just, rebuild the game from, what,
know.
like.
But if you,
that's what they said, though.
but if you think of it as GUI, like the way you can program like JavaScript or something, everybody there's pre-created GUI, and then you put the code behind it. All you need to do is like change the GUI and keep the code behind it. My whole point is,
but
that skips a step, and then you don't have to write the whole code behind the code for scratch.
I guess we can't say for sure. Is all I'm saying. But
there's so much different between the I'm sure I can almost guarantee they use different programming language than they use for
that's what I'm saying.
For the Super Nintendo than they do for the PlayStation 4.
Any modern gen, yeah, of course.
Right? Like I feel like you would have to almost redo that entire thing anyway. And I guess you would just use the code as like a base.
Yeah, that's
if
what I'm
you had
saying.
Yeah,
it.
exactly. I mean, it
I would
wasn't
think
an
it wouldn't
apples
be
to
that-
apples the correlation I was trying to make. All my thing is just like, I was using a very broad example of what it might
Sure.
Yeah,
take.
I get you.
I mean, I would think it wouldn't be that different than just entirely recreating the game, as opposed to like if you had the code.
Mm.
Like I get it, but you can just also have somebody like go through the game, like
And somewhat reverse
certainly
engineer
can
it.
get their hands on an original copy or an emulator of it, and like just have somebody go through it and be like, "Here's what we need to make." Like, here's the type of game that we need to make. And like, if everything's not the same, it's not going to be a huge fucking deal. It's been 25 years since Chrono Trigger came out or whatever.
Maybe
You know,
more, but
Probably more than that, actually. But like, so I don't know. It's just so weird to me that they're like, we can't make this because we don't have the
No.
original code.
like I said, I just found it funny. Like they're like, yeah, we're committed to releasing our backlog digitally if we can find the fucking code. Like that's what it says in my notes.
Yeah, just do a remake
So-
of Chrono Trigger. I think that'd be awesome.
I just thought that was funny, but they.
Final Fantasy VII, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm getting to that. That's a good segue as well. But yeah, they did say like they were asked about it. Like, yeah, we'd love to if some of the code's missing though, and like
yeah.
I guess they need that to do it. So yeah, so they are. Death of Remake is still. They have a date. It's March 3rd, 2020, but it's Chapter 1, so it's just Midgard, like the Midgard part.
Right.
They're doing it like cut up into like various sections.
Do you know how many it's going to be?
And not-
I didn't.
I
hear-
don't know if
I
they
don't
said it. I don't have it in my notes. It might be. I want to guess like 4 or 5, like maybe something like that.
Yeah.
But it's weird that they're doing like almost like quote unquote episodically. They did show off a trailer for it, like a brief one and a brief gameplay thing. It looked okay.
I think it looks great, but the problem is like, how the fuck can you spend 7 years on this and
Yeah.
do the first fifth of the game? Like, what
Sure.
the fuck, man? Like, I get it.
Well,
It was a
Here
big
it
game,
is.
but
It's because of money.
yeah,
I get
it
it.
was a big game. But like, holy shit, guys! Like, fucking, you're Square Enix. You're one of the biggest video game companies in the world.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to make a fucking game?
It is strange that they are doing it that way, especially because it's such a beloved game and the remake has been anticipated for so
Oh
long,
my
as you just
God.
said. So
I feel like they
But-
got one guy on it.
But all right, so how did they do Resident Evil 2? Because as we said, Resident Evil 2
that's
is
Capcom.
Yeah, that's a
no,
different company.
but my whole point is, I mean, it's just like, yeah, they redid the
Well,
game.
they did it from the ground up, I would imagine.
I'm assuming so because so much of it was like the original game, but yet so much of it,
Well, actually,
even
I do know,
even besides the graphics,
I do know they did it in the engine they did for RE7. It's like if that
Yeah.
matters,
I
it's pertinent to it. But
okay, I was just wondering like how they did it because the layout for the most part was the same. It was just like all the details were different, and that's what gave me the idea for the GUI. It's just like you update the characters because if going back and watching the old gameplay, I'm like, holy shit! You know, I remember the graphics being so much better. Maybe that's me being jaded, but that was my whole thing because they only charged like $20 for it.
for
Plus, it came
what?
with like 3 DLCs.
for
Didn't
Resident Evil,
it? Resident Evil 2 didn't? It wasn't like $20.
No, I mean, I paid full price when it came out.
Resident Evil. No, the recent.
Yeah,
one.
I know.
Was it more?
No,
than
you bought it on sale because I fucking told you to buy it.
All right.
When I bought it, when it came out, when it dropped, it was a full price AAA game, and I paid $60, and I don't regret any penny. But I'm saying
Yeah.
that's the way they did it. But I'm saying to you, Steve, yeah, I know you're a huge fan of FF7, and it is strange that they're doing it cut up, and it took them so long. Like
Driving me
maybe if they
crazy.
just it was just 7 years, and like okay, here it is, but they're also cutting it up. So, but it looked good enough from what I saw of it.
And E3 gave me an even bigger slap in the face regarding this because they are dropping Final Fantasy VIII remake. I'm pretty sure the entire game.
Yep.
Before Final
I was
Fantasy
just about to
VII
get to
Part
that.
1 comes out, which
Yeah.
I'm so furious about.
Yeah.
I'm so angry because I have tried to play Final Fantasy VIII like 4 times, and I know I'm going to... if anybody listened to this show, I would get a ton of like fucking blowback about this because I know a lot of people like Final Fantasy VIII. I could not play that game. I tried like 4 times to get into it. I never got past like, I don't know, 10 hours.
Sure.
And like Final Fantasy VII, I've replayed 3 times now, and I fucking love that game. Final Fantasy VIII didn't hold my attention, and now here's Final Fantasy VIII just coming up and
Yeah. They sort of
Slap
like
me in the
slipped it
face
in there.
again.
Yeah. It's strange, but I do have that like so like they're remaking FF8 and like yep, here it is. Like we're pretty much done with it. It's about to come out.
Granted, it's not gonna. I think it's gonna be like fairly similar to the original game. They're not doing the like huge
overhaul.
that they're doing to Final Fantasy VII, but like still, come on, you fucking assholes!
I get you.
Stop putting developers on Final Fantasy VIII and remake Final Fantasy VII already. Jesus Christ!
I did think that was funny, but that is another thing that they did
Anyway.
announce for sure. So that's basically like the highlights from Square Enix. So let me move on to Microsoft. That's probably like maybe the best one. Like I don't know how to say it. So Microsoft bought
They
up
were
like
only the only one there.
yeah, they're like one of the big ones
Yeah.
that actually showed up. Sure. So CD Projekt Red like presented at their thing,
Mm.
and that the big thing everyone was like Keanu Reeves showed up, and he is going to be a character in Cyberpunk 2077, which is like probably one of the, if not the most anticipated game of next year.
Yeah.
So it's going to come out April 16th, 2020. They actually have a date.
Is
for it
that
now.
a Microsoft exclusive? Or?
No, it's like again, like that's saying it's strange because it's going to be cross-platform. Like CD Projekt Red is committed to being like basically the anti-EA and the anti-Epic Games. They're going to make it on all platforms. They have their own platform anyway. They have good old games. Like they run that and own it. So like if PC, they do it there, and they're doing an Xbox and a PS4 version of Cyberpunk. They want everyone to be able to get their game on whatever platform that they so choose. But yeah, like Keanu Reeves came out on stage and like, you know, was hyping up whatever. And like the one cool thing, like this is a minor story or like tangentially related. He's on screen, and, you know, he's doing his spiel like blah blah blah. It's like, and the world you can come into is breathtaking. And like someone in the crowd just goes, "You're breathtaking," right? He's like, "No, you're all breathtaking." And then after that, that guy like posted, like I'm the guy who said it. CD Projekt Red is like, "Cool, man. We're gonna give you a collector's edition version of Cyberpunk."
Awesome.
Like that's why they're the coolest developer
That's fucking
ever.
great. What does it cost them? Fucking $30
Yeah,
or whatever.
it
Like
doesn't
a
even matter,
game
yeah.
cost to develop, you know, to per unit.
Yeah, it was so good. So like they're just so good to the fans, like the gamers in general, and like so they just happen to be presenting like under Microsoft's banner more or less. But yeah, there's no exclusivity, there's nothing like that. They're just like there, you know, on their stage essentially.
I have to be honest with you. I am looking so forward to that
Yeah,
game.
like I said, it's probably like they showed it off last year's E3 too. So they showed off a bit more, and again they had a behind the closed doors like demo essentially, and then they're gonna release that I believe soon after this.
Beth gave me the caveat, like, because I'm playing the Days Gone now, and she goes, the next game you should play, because we were talking about Cyberpunk is what was that Blade Runner thing that you and she played?
Deus Ex.
Deus Ex. She's like, you have to play this before you play Cyberpunk, because she's like, it's gonna totally get you into.
I don't know if you have to, but like they're in the same vein for sure.
Yeah, but she's just like, you really have to play it, because if you play this and don't appreciate it.
They don't play Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so like that was like that's probably for me like personally like that's one of the top 3 things that I was super interested in, and it was really cool like the way it shook down. They had Keanu, big surprise, and yeah, he's going to be like a major-ish part of a character in the game.
The Keanu Sans continues.
Yeah, man, he's just killing it, man, in the best way.
Baba
So,
Yaga.
Yeah, Baba Yaga, Baba Cyberpunk. So then under that, this was known for a while too. They showed off a bit of it. They're doing a Battletoads like sort of reboot like thing, like a new Battletoads game based on the original.
I remember hearing about this. Did they?
Yeah, they
drop
showed
a new trailer.
They showed off
or-
a bit of it, yeah. So
I gotta
but
check that out.
the problem is like to me, it's a Microsoft exclusive because Microsoft has been snapping up
Fucking
all these
assholes.
developers. Yeah, so like CD Projekt Red is not one of them, but a lot of others are. So like, kind of sucks. I might personally be considering getting either an Xbox One or whatever the new gen might be,
Yeah.
depending. But yeah,
Scarlet.
whatever it's going to be called, like that's the code name for it, which they also showed off a bit of or like teased it at the show as well.
They've got it.
But
So
whatever.
like, I know PlayStation is planning on doing a lot of backwards compatibility. I assume that
I believe
Microsoft
they
is
like
gonna
they
as well.
haven't they didn't say we're not going to do it. So I agree. Like I imagine they're going to try to keep up the competition there with it. But
I mean, but who knows? Microsoft has a bad track.
they have a weird track record, yeah, a
of
spotty record.
releasing new fucking consoles.
For sure.
Idiots. Get your shit together, Microsoft.
But yeah, so the final thing, again, this is a double-edged sword to me. However, Outer Worlds is also one of my big anticipated games. It's Obsidian, the guys who did Fallout New Vegas
Yeah,
and all that. So like, it's their new like sci-fi. Basically, hey, did you hate Fallout 4 and or 76? Want to return to form? Come back to us. Like we're the guys who did Vegas, the one everyone loves. And it's a new its own story. Yeah, it's like vaguely like within there, but you're on a different planet, and like you can work for the corporation, you can work for the rebels, like blah blah. But Microsoft did buy them up as a studio. However, Outer Worlds was in development long before that deal happened, so it again will also be cross-platform. It will not be exclusive.
I did see the trailer for that one. It looks pretty fucking good.
They've been showing off shit from it for a while.
It almost
and, like,
looked like an Oddworld game at first. Like if like I got that kind of little vibe out of it.
to me, it was like
Which I think they're doing a new Oddworld.
They
game,
are.
which looks pretty good.
Yes, I believe that's somewhere down later on my
Yeah.
list, but they are doing that. That was shown off at E3. The sense I got, like, not quite, again, a 1-to ratio, but sort of Borderlands-y, which I happened to be playing, again, recently.
I was
in
going
terms
to
of
say
Outer Worlds.
Borderlands meets Fallout. It looks
Kind of, yeah.
It's kind of like
Actually,
what it
that's a
looks
good
Yeah,
like.
call.
that's a good log
call,
line.
yeah.
It's,
And yeah.
and the thing is, it's just like, Beth's still on the fence about it, but like, I'm kind of sold.
They
on
sold me, man. Like I mean,
I'm kind of sold on it
I
because
love their studio and I love the shit they've done, and it's good to return to form. Like I said, like it's like everybody who was like annoyed or like disappointed with the Fallouts,
But
come back to us. We'll do it right.
But the thing is, and like Scott and I are having this discussion about Days Gone, and I was noticing that it's a little rough around the edges. Like some of the CG doesn't match
Yeah,
up.
I mean, like they're
But
not the biggest studio in the world.
The character development is great.
Yeah.
And if you give me a game, I don't care if it's like meets the spectacle of whatever shit they're putting out. If you give me something that's good, that gives me that verisimilitude, but more importantly, it gives me that like strong character and a strong world like Fallout New Vegas really did have
For sure. That's why it was so different than like that's why everyone like I think many of the Fallout fans point to it as one of, if not the best one, at least of modern gen.
Yeah.
Because it was Obsidian and it wasn't like the Bethesda ones.
I feel like that's the big shame though, right? Like Flash sells units, story like builds a customer base.
But
right?
that's the thing is like if it doesn't have the story, if it doesn't, especially if it doesn't have the character. I think we've discussed since we began this thing. I think of all this know that like
Sure.
if you don't have like strong character development, not just the protagonist, but the
whole world itself,
the
and all
antagonist
the
and
NPCs
the
stuff. Yeah.
then nothing else fucking matters. And if you look at a lot of the games we keep coming back to, they're older gen games, and going back to them, they may seem like graphically a little pedestrian. But the thing is, they've got such strong stories. They've got such strong
Listen,
characters.
I don't need spectacle. I need storytelling. as you're
Yeah,
saying, pretty
exactly.
much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like derail, but
No, all good. I agree. But yeah, it's been on my radar for a while, so it's cool they showed off more, and they actually have a date, so it'll be October 25th this year.
Cool.
So I'm gonna grab that up. And the last thing is, of course, they showed off Gears 5, next Gears of War.
I just found out about that the other day.
Yeah. So the funny thing was, like, this is like, I mean, I thought of it too, but Yahtzee, like one of my favorite reviewers / pundits. So it's gonna have a mode in it that's basically like Left 4 Dead kind of mode. So like it's like Gears for Dead or Left for Gears or whatever, like whatever you want to call it. Like I don't know how to feel about that. Like I thought Gears as a series has always been okay. I played, I think 3 or 4 of them. I played Judgment was the last one I played, and like they've always been okay. Like I could give them credit on what they did for like the fucking like the chest high wall shooter essentially.
Yeah.
But then it sort of like ran itself into the ground. So, like,
But didn't they do that for one? I'm sorry, for one of the DLCs for 3? Didn't they already do like kind of a Left or Dead thing? Because I remember my buddy was.
They were big on the zombie style. Like they just had or like wave
shit.
style
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I remembered. It wasn't obviously it was like alien bug type things, not so much.
Yeah. I remember a
Zombies, right?
lot of fun playing Gears.
Yeah, Gears 2, I believe we played a shitload back in the day.
Yeah.
That
And it was good.
The multiplayer on that was awesome.
In Gears of War series, that is one of the things that has a decent story, but comes so close to having great character development. They've got great moments, but they don't.
Sometimes, but then it
That's
falls
what I'm
apart.
saying is they've got great moments, but if they had the follow through, because the sacrifice in 3 that I won't, it was like 5 or 7 years ago, but would have been more.
Statute of limitations.
Yeah, if it would have
Of
been more
spoilers.
impactful if they had given us the same, if they built off the revelation in Gears of War 2.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's always been up and down, like, story-wise, like, speaking of story. But, like, I mean, they showed, of course, as one of their flagship, like, properties. And they're making a new one, essentially. Probably it'll be, like, sort of like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where, like, they'll release a version for the tail end of this gen and then one for, like, the new gen system or whatever. But they showed it off, and, like, I thought that was a funny thing, like, Gears for Dead, like, okay.
Speaking of the new gens, do we have like tentative dates for
Nah.
those, or like
At least
tentative
not
time
not that I've
frames?
There's been speculation.
I'm assuming it's late next year.
I thought-
probably like Christmas time.
People are
next
like, it
year.
might be like, again, holiday season this year, but they might hold it off till like just over the line.
It seems like that's really close. Like if they were
It's-
going to do holiday season this year, we'd be
like
hearing about
this
it.
generation gap. Speaking of that, as a quick tangent, like seems to be getting smaller. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like
I
Moore's
think
law.
I think it does,
kind
but
of.
I mean, it's been. So the thing is,
It's only been
like
like 5 years.
it's been
or so,
5
6
years
maybe.
since the last gen. It's like the people that got them when they first came out,
I guess that's fair.
they're probably about to shit the bed. Like all those fucking systems.
But wasn't
Maybe,
I
but-
got the impression that for some reason they have PS5 coming out September 2020. That I don't know where I got that from, but that was
Again, that might be speculation. As far as I understand and have in my notes, there's no hard dates whatsoever. They've just been like basically teasing some features and like this and that, and that they exist, that they're working on them more or less.
I feel like they usually do them around Christmas time.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that like capitalistically makes sense, we'll say, but not always.
No, but if you release it in September, that's the perfect time because you
Well,
know
that's still roughly like early holiday season. we'll
yeah,
say.
exactly September to December.
But as far as I can tell, like there's been no like that wasn't like one of the big announcements, like the new gen Xbox
Coming
and/or-
2020.
yeah, or whatever. So
okay.
they just like tease it a bit. So let me move on a bit. Actually, I'll tie in. So this is one for you, Chris. It's been announced before. Dying Light 2. They're like, we're making it. So the cool thing to me is Chris Avellone, like one of the greatest writers in video games in the past like 20 years. He's worked on Fall. Like he was part of Obsidian, I believe. He's one of the best writers. Like if he's attached to your game, then you sort of like got me on the outset. So it's like, hey, did you like Dying Light 1? But did you want actual good story and characters? Here it is.
Nice.
So that's cool. And they have a date on it. It's 2020, not like a month, but like early 2020. And yeah, so he's narrative lead. So the premise is like can make decisions and it will change the world. Like their big claim is that and any given average playthrough, you only see 50% of the content based on what you do and what you choose. So like that's cool because a lot of like branching things like this and that. And they showed off a demo of that, which was so like there was a mission and then you can choose to like drain the moat or something like in one of the towns. And if you drain the moat, then it opens up a whole different area and uncovers a different like type of zombie. But you can choose not to do that, and that will like diverge from there. So that looks really cool. Like, yeah.
I'm really excited about that because if anybody listening to this has gone back to the golden age of the Lost Signals, Scott and I have talked about that in the DLC, and our biggest complaint was 80% of it was really great, and the last 20% was, like the main storyline was okay.
Yeah, it was cookie cutter in terms of that.
But the side missions were the most interesting in those.
Yeah, for sure. So if Chris Avellone is directing all the missions, then I'm on board with that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm actually excited about Dying Light 2 because if this was something they were just tossing off, I was gonna be like,
Yeah, for sure. So that's like maybe like mid-tier-ish interesting for me. So a couple other things, like don't know much more, but they're doing a Destroy All Humans remake, which I know a couple of you, like Ian has been playing Destroy All Humans.
Ian's gonna be all
I'm on with that.
I will probably play that because it's a remake / reboot, whatever you want to call it. But new gen one, and I do fondly also have fond memories of the original.
I think we all really enjoyed the original.
Yeah, for sure.
Humans.
I'm still enjoying it because I like once Ian told me
it right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, once Ian told me,
I see you play it, motherfucker. I can see what you're playing.
It's my go-to game. It's what I do when I have nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's like a good like relaxing sort of like just sort of leisurely going through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So here's one for me. Devolver Digital. It's one of my favorite publishers ever. They're so good. And for the past 3 years, and this year no exception, they're not like live on stage. They just do like a digital video thing. And it's all basically a takedown, a troll of like E3 itself.
Taking the piss out of E3.
So yeah, it's so great. Check it out. Like they have it on their website. It's on YouTube, like whatever. I highly recommend you watching it. But so like they have like it has its own like sort of meta story like attached to it. There's like they're quote unquote like the face of the company like comes out and like she's like a robot like she's like it's always like ridiculous shit.
Running for the last 3
years.
Yeah,
Nina Struthers is like her like their character name, and like it just keeps going on like a story within that. But then like they'll show off the games like in between all those segments, right?
Nice.
So this I've been waiting to tell you this. There's one game coming out. It'll be 2020. No hard date, but just 2020 next year. It's called Carrion. Imagine if you were the thing. Like Devolver Digital style. They're like this amorphous mass of like tentacles, and like all the like enemies are all scientists like trying to kill you, and like you still absorb them and like do new abilities. Like check out the trailer for it. It looks one of the coolest ones I've seen.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Wow.
Carry On?
Yeah, Carrion.
That is fucking brilliant.
I guess I should say Carry On because that reminds people of
like Carrion, like dead meat essentially. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, so like that looks fucking awesome. And like another joke they did was they're putting out, you can buy it right now. I believe it's on Steam. I'm not sure if it's on consoles, but it's like bootleg versions of their own games for like $1 or $2. Like it's like they're still doing it. So it's like Hotline Milwaukee and like shit like that. The shit that they've already done. It's like weird, like wonky versions of it.
Reskinning them?
Yeah, like sort of like
yeah.
it's like that's the shit that Devolver does, and it's so fucking great. And another game, like I guess I'll say more legit game. It's called My Friend Pedro. You guys may have seen a little bit of it. You're like
think
again
you're
side
telling
scroller. Like you're on a skateboard. It's sort of like John Wick if he was like a cartoonish character on a skateboard, like more
Sure.
like doing all these crazy moves, like spinning around, like shooting guns. All his enemies are against you. Check out that trailer. Highly recommend that one. It's really cool. Yeah, Devolver's like, just been doing some of the best stuff and like in the best way. So I give them a lot of credit. Like they're probably up there / equal or like just in the same list as CD Projekt.
Yeah.
Like just doing some cool stuff and like they know like they're not trying to be like the stilted corporate assholes as like many others are. So I'll give them a lot of credit and definitely check out their digital presentation because it's fantastic.
Nice.
A couple other highlights. So Ubisoft, there's only one thing I give a shit about. Like they didn't show Beyond Good and Evil 2, which everyone was like, what the fuck? They're waiting on that. So what they did show was Watch Dogs Legions, the new Watch Dogs, which looks... I'm probably going to play it. I like the first two well enough. 2 was definitely better than the first. So the premise is it's post-Brexit London. Like more or less.
Sure.
And
Yes, you do.
like the big gimmick is like you can like instead of like having like one of the big leverages against it is that previously is that the main characters were bland and or like uninteresting, like more or less. So in this one, there's a story, but there's no main characters. It's that you can recruit like any random NPC in the street. You recruit like into like DedSec,
Nice.
and then like they like you have like a pool of them, and they can level up and have their own skills like separately. You can play different missions as them, and it will like slightly change like depending on which one you choose. So like the funny thing is like people are like, I'm gonna recruit army of grandmas in London like to be my DedSec or like whatever. Like
Nice.
you have like a whole mix of various characters, but any NPC ostensibly is up for grabs for you to recruit into like the hacker group and then go on from there. So that seems pretty cool, and it's coming out March 6th, which is right around my birthday, 2020. So yeah, like decent enough, looks all right. I'm
Is that a hint?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, anybody want to send Scott a?
if you feel like buying me or just donating, no,
Yeah.
I'm just saying like it happens to be around there. So they gave the date as well, and after showing along with showing what it's going to be like, and that's their new like big gimmick is the NPC thing, like recruit anybody on the street of London.
Boris Johnson.
Recruit
Don't
Boris
recruit Boris
Johnson.
Johnson. Yeah, so there's one more big thing. So this one's for you, Steve-O. They finally gave a date for Doom Eternal.
Yes.
It will be November 22nd. I know we all been waiting on that.
More
Yeah.
Doom.
It looks fantastic. I mean, Doom 2016 was fucking amazing,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's more of that. Like it's like now we're not just on Mars. Now I think the big thing is you can fight in heaven, or going to heaven is one of the levels, or like
Really?
that's part of a thing.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
But
We've
all-
already been to hell.
Yeah, all the gameplay impressions, like did you like the first that Doom? Because it's just that again, and that's all it needs to be, really, right?
This is really bad. Like I am super interested in Doom Eternal. I have not seen this trailer yet. I gotta check it out. Or a trailer. Was it gameplay?
It's
or a trailer?
both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they had like a closed demo behind closed doors, which they may release afterwards. But I've definitely seen like get the gameplay footage of it.
Yeah.
So I think they were allowed to release it, or like whatever people they let in were able to show it.
I'm very excited.
So yeah, so there's that. Couple other so this is a smaller one. I don't know. I don't know what it was under, but it's just called Spiritfarer. It's an indie-ish, like AA level of game where you play as I have it in my notes, a cutesy Charon character.
Sure.
It's like Charon, like from the Greek thing, where you build and manage a boat to ferry and shepherd souls, the dead, across to the afterlife, which seems kind of cool. It's basically like a management game, but also like kind of I can't really tell like if it's Metroidvania or not, if it's linear.
Yeah.
But like you upgrade and manage your boat, and therefore like you can, I guess, recruit more souls or like meet more people, whatever. It seems really cool, and the art style is awesome. Like check it out. They had like 2-minute trailer on that. So yeah, Spiritfarer looks interesting. I got to keep my eye on it for sure. And let's see what else. So Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Yes, that was like
For real?
yeah, like so it's supposed to be single player. The guy who played the Joker in Gotham, Cameron, can't remember his name offhand. He plays the main character. Like it's basically his likeness and voice.
Nice.
And it's like set in like after Order 66, so like you're a Padawan, like basically on the run, if you will. And it's supposed to be like single player. I don't know if it's like technically RPG-ish, like light RPG elements that is, but it ain't Battlefront. We'll say that.
I was gonna say, is there like a 15-minute story with the rest
No.
of it being
No,
online?
it's supposed to be like single player, like straight up, like that, in that vein. And it's not November 15th is release date. So I know like that's been like known for a while. It's not like it's a surprise from E3,
Yeah.
but they dropped they showed off a little bit more of it and gave the date.
And
So
now
that-
I know what to get my nephew for his
Yeah,
birthday.
Great.
There you go.
So there you go.
Note to myself.
Note to Chris.
Bethesda didn't do much. Like I put them all the way down, like at the bottom.
Bethesda didn't
just
do
trying to
much.
recover.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a tagline.
Yeah.
They didn't do much. They didn't show anything about Elder Scrolls 6 at all, which is like the one thing I was waiting on from them. They're basically like, hey, remember how you didn't like 76? Here's like we're building more of the roadmap for it. And everyone's like, I guess, like cool, like whatever.
I was gonna
I
say.
think that's how I am.
They're trying to salvage 76
Yeah.
now.
Like to be fair, like
I heard they added NPCs.
yeah, that's what they did now. So like,
Yeah.
hey, people are like great. So like, but from what I did gather, that if anybody who is still playing 76, it's been more better tuned a bit. Like I know the face Steve was making is like whatever, who cares? But the consensus is it's not as shit as it used to be. So all right, I guess. Let's see, a couple other things. This one's for me. Two horror games because I always have my eye on horror style games. So Bloober Team, the devs who did Layers of Fear and Layers of Fear 2 just recently, which I quite liked, are doing, and also did Observer, are doing a Blair Witch game, like
Oh,
set
yeah,
in
I
the Blair
heard
Witch
about that.
universe.
Very interesting.
Like more or less, but the thing is, like I have here, odd pick to adapt, but at least it's the right studio.
Yeah.
Because I think that I do believe they would do a good job with that.
because the thing about and I am a defender of the original movie, and the thing about a lot of the horror games I like so much is what goes on in your head prior to
Sure.
what you see on screen. So if I have to
your
play
mind makes it real.
if I have to play Observer and those other two games you're talking about,
You don't have to, but I
no,
recommend
no.
them.
But what I'm saying is, if I'm real, the only reason I want to say I have to is because I want to know. I get an idea of how they might approach this.
Sure.
Because based on what you told me about those games, I'm very excited about this
there
one,
is-
believe it or not.
They're essentially walking
I don't
sims,
believe it.
but like pretty solidly done within like a horror framework. That's basically the logline of them.
Yeah.
The elevator pitch. So yeah, I enjoyed them all, and I think again, it's a good match. If anyone's going to make a Blair Witch game like that, it should be them. So that's solid. Vampire Bloodlines 2 is another one. Like that was like the original one was like kind of a cult hit. Like it was very popular, except it was janky technically wise. So they're finally doing a follow up, like a sort of again remake / reboot of it. That'll be 2020. No hard date, but next year. And that's actually pretty cool. Like what they did show off, like some of the vampire abilities. And if you're a big fan of like the World of Darkness stuff, it's all like werewolf. It all like takes place in that same world. So yeah, it was a cult hit from like 20, 15 years ago, and everyone's excited about them sort of remaking.
Does it have anything to do with that game that Ian and Beth played, the vampire game?
No, that's
Okay.
it's totally different. It's the World of Darkness, like White Wolf stuff. If you ever like the tabletop stuff,
Okay, no.
right? But it's based in that, and amongst that group, they're very excited about that, and I probably will check it out as well. Like I'm tangentially excited. I'm not like the biggest fan, but I am interested in it, and it looks pretty good for sure from the trailer. And then so this one, I'm sort of more interested in. It's called Moons of Madness. It's a space Lovecraftian game. You're on Mars, and Lovecraft horrors happen. That looks really cool, actually.
Awesome.
It'll be cross-released. It'll be released on Halloween, which is fucking perfect this year.
Awesome.
So that's fucking solid. I am definitely going to check that out. I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, but they are doing a Psychonauts 2 that people say looking pretty good. Like if you like the original, it's that, but more.
The
And
original. If you haven't played the original Psychonauts, do yourself a
Yeah.
favor.
It is a super
Play
unique
it.
game
It's super fun.
for sure. So people like, again, Tim Schafer and Double Fine and all that. Like if you like them, you know them. They're like, hey, we're doing a Psychonauts 2 and looks pretty good.
Yeah, nice.
And then two final things. Sorry, this one's sort of for me. I guess it was under Bethesda, but regardless, is Arcane Studios, the devs who did the Dishonored's. They're doing a new game called Deathloop, in which the premise is there are two assassins locked in some like eternal struggle and a weird like time bubble on like an island. That's pretty much it. They didn't even show like I don't even think they had a trailer or anything, or they had like a brief like cinematic, but no gameplay. They're basically pitching the idea. But like I've come to trust Arcane. That like Prey was awesome too. They did Prey, and I liked everything I played from them. So I'll probably will check it out just based on that. Although, yes, it would be nice to if they release a bit more information, a bit more visuals from.
But the pitch is pretty
Yeah,
intriguing.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, because I
that caught
loved,
my eye.
Yeah.
And the final one, I think I sent this to you offcast, Evo, is From Software is working with George R.R. Martin on a new game. This is called Elden Ring. That's basically it. No other information really, like no hard information, but maybe that's why he hasn't been writing any fucking books.
Well,
I was gonna say,
cute people being pissed off that he hasn't finished writing the books yet.
or is this thing never going to be released?
or he's doing all of them at once and trying to do it. But yeah,
E3 2023. George R.R. Martin's still working on this game.
sure. It seems like a cool matchup, but we'll see what comes of it. But they basically announced that and like, hey, it's happening. And so the final thing is, unless before I do the final like thing I was saving, anything that you want to ask me or that I didn't cover?
No, I mean
No.
that's a pretty good rundown of a lot of the stuff that's going on. I
Given
think
for
that's
what
most of the stuff that I'm interested in, and some extra.
Thrill me, will you?
Given for what it was. All right, so here it is. It's nothing to do with any game studios itself. So there's a Twitch streamer, but goes by the name of Dr. Disrespect. Like, I'm not that big. I don't know a lot of Twitch stuff. I know some things, but this is one of the things that happened. Given this moniker, you would sort of expect this. So, like, he's known enough, at least. So he's at E3. I think he was, at a guest thing or whatever. He had a pass. And he was fucking live streaming from the bathroom of E3, which... And then on top of that, he of course he didn't plan for this, or at least I guess I won't comment either way. What happened was though, he ended up accidentally live streaming like a kid like in the bathroom. Like a kid was like there with him in the bathroom or something while he was like doing like pranks, like essentially like trying to live stream. So he got his pass revoked and he got banned from Twitch for like whatever, like a week or whatever it was. So like it was like a minor like kerfuffle that happened like during E3 because he is a somewhat popular Twitch streamer. And that's his stick. That's what he does. Not that per se, but like being disrespectful.
Not shit with kids,
Yes.
but
yes,
a dickhead.
like being asshole. Like, yeah,
So what was so he was just, why was he live streaming from a bathroom?
because it was like it's like a stick. It's like, hey, I'm Dr. Disrespect, and you know what'd be a funny idea? Just go in the bathroom of E3s and live stream from there. And then like accidentally like so the kid's family may sue him. Like it's all up in the air. Like it still could have like iffy,
wow.
but like it came out like the second day or something during it. That's when he did it, and I just thought it was darkly hilarious, like stupidly hilarious.
If I could channel Red Foreman for a minute, he sounds like a real dumbass.
Yeah,
I was going to
But, like,
say, check the stalls,
that's
man.
his- that's
check
his
the
whole thing.
stalls.
Yeah.
so I thought that was like again stupidly funny. That might be like that. Like the Keanu thing is like the highlight, and this is like the reverse of the highlight, like the lowest point.
Fair enough.
So that's pretty much it, man. So yeah, like I said, like stuff that I just mentioned, like I would say Outer Worlds, Cyberpunk, and maybe Moons of Madness, and then Doom.
Doom Eternal.
Like some of the top stuff. Everything else looks cool enough, like tangentially.
And if you have a Switch, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, if you have a Switch, Nintendo stuff looks good. And like I said, other than that, check out Devolver Digital shit. Like support them for sure. And they do the best show. They should do their own E3. Like they should just have their own show like for 3 days.
It seems like everybody should have their own fucking show at this point.
Yeah. Like so to tie it all back to where we started, it's possible that I mean I wouldn't bet on it, but I could see it like E3 is sort of like not breaking up, I guess, because it's a big thing. It's a big money generator.
I would love it if PAX, like, if they just E3 kind of
like
went
enfolded
away,
in, yeah,
and
yeah.
like PAX took over the mantle of all this.
Yeah.
Because I think that they probably
they could probably do a better
cater to
job
the
of it.
fans better than E3 does.
Yeah, for sure. I think E3 again like has a stigma against it like for a while or recently-ish, like I said, where it's all like stodgy stuff and it's like it's not really for the gamers. Like it's ostensibly try to get you to buy their shit,
Right.
but they're not like really reaching out to you,
Yeah.
or like very few and far between. And the ones who did, I mentioned. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's my take and that's my rundown and highlights from E3 to 2019. Guys, got anything else to add, or
No.
like I said?
How many of these games have a non-white, non-male protagonist?
4.
A couple of them at least.
No, I was like thinking about that. And I'm like,
Well, Cyberpunk,
this-
you can choose your race and gender
but
and
that's
combine them.
but that's great though. I'm just all of a sudden I'm sitting here thinking,
I don't know. Doom guys, we don't know.
Doom Guy is a non-entity.
I don't know. Well,
He's just a suit of armor.
Actually, well, that's not true. In the original Doom,
no,
Okay,
ever
sure.
since
He was
we
a-
ever
he was a
since
white
we ever since we saw that
but you did get to see him get bloody as hell.
yeah, I mean it's something I'd been aware
Yes.
of, but after we saw the that documentary we did last year
Yeah.
and a couple of
that's fair.
discussions I've been having with Beth and a few other people, I'm like, we really need to address the
Spiritfarer, you're a young girl or like a
Women-
teenage girl. So I
but
can
we
tell you
have-
that much.
we have to address. I mean, we really have to. There's a lot of women gamers out there, and the industry has to start stepping up a little more.
Well,
I mean, that's been true for years. Like, I'm not.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say every industry needs to be stepping up a little more. but
sure. I
Go
agree.
ahead, Sivo.
I was gonna say you just played a game that I don't think you was talking about on the show at all. Aren't you like a
Oh shit! Yeah. So
Girl and-
so during the E3, so they
just to
announced
address.
so Gearbox announced that they announced Borderlands 3 like way back. Actually, so I have the date for you. I do have it. They showed off a little bit of it. God damn it! I thought I had September 13th. Right. So Borderlands 3 is coming out. So as sort of a bridge to tie it in and like sort of a holdover, they released a free DLC that takes place after the main game of Borderlands 2 and bridges the gap between now and when 3 comes out. And yeah, so it was free. I'm like, yo, that's awesome of them. And they also gave out the Handsome Collection 2 and the pre-sequel. That way, because you have to have a copy of it. So I rolled up a new character because I don't have my old character from fucking Xbox like so long ago. So I rolled up a new character. Yeah, and it was a female character. And like, I fucking love this class. Like, it was so much fun, especially because I had to solo it. So yeah, it was cool. But I mean, they've always had that. Like, you could choose male or female characters in Borderlands. But I will say, like, regardless of all the Randy Pitchford bullshit, which I don't even want to go into right now, but them as a studio, like, not him, just them in general, they're doing a pretty good service to the fans by giving it out for free. It dropped during E3, I believe, and is still, as of this recording, it's going to be free for like another 2 weeks, and then becomes pay.
So check it out.
So yeah, so if you're a fan of Borderlands, which I'm fairly-ish, not a huge fan, but like I got into it, and yeah, it was cool that they did that, and I did play a female character class, and it was fucking great because it was very helpful to do a solo. But yeah, they've been okay about that. They've been pretty good. I agree, though, that yes, we should have more representation in general. That isn't kind of neither here nor there.
But you heard it from Chris's mouth. More representation.
More representation.
Microsoft,
Get woke.
Sony,
Yes,
Nintendo. Listen to our words.
etc.
To quote Childish Gambino, stay woke.
Indeed.
Actually, get woke.
Get and stay woke.
Well, he'll get that quote.
I guess we'll say.
Eventually.
But I think that will do it.
Yeah.
I have been Scott Thurlow, your fake host for E3, and I've been here with Stephen Demosi
I keep playing games.
and Chris Morgan.
Game over.
And we'll see you next time. Good night. Thank you for joining the Lost Signals Games and Gaming Culture. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows and more, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.